how do I properly drain the central heating system down to do work on it? Okay, well there's two types of systems in the main here in England. That's the combi system and the F&E system. So the easiest one is the combi system. If you've got that one, we do that one first. Pretty simple. So first thing of all, obviously you have a combi boiler. Just turn the heating off, turn the thing off, okay, so there's no power to it. Next thing, you haven't got to turn any water off if you've got a combi boiler. People say, do I need to turn the water off? No, you don't need to turn any water off at all. All we've got to do is find the drain cock. Now this will be at the lowest position in your house. So if you've got a normal two-storey house, it will be downstairs. It may be on a radiator or it may be on the pipework. I'll show you the one on the radiator normally looks like now. This is the type you find that's on a radiator quite often, and it's quite often part of the valve. And you can see there that you literally put the hose pipe on there and run it outside to the lowest point. I'll show you the other type. Here is the most common one that you will find most systems, and it's usually near a radiator on a bit of pipe. Always will be at the lowest point in your heating system. Easy to find, as you can see. Slip the hose on and just undo the curled nut there with a small spanner. Make sure you've got a hose on it going outside, and keep the hose flat and level to the lowest point. And if you've got a little slope, even better, get it outside and it will all start to empty. But there's other things you need to do as that is happening. So as it starts to drain down, you'll get a nice little rush to begin with, and it will run for a little while, then gradually start to slow off as the pressure in the combi boiler disappears. Now you may still have water in the system even if you think it's stopped, because the radiators will hold water in them. They need all the bleed valves opened to let the air into the radiator to get the water out of those as well. So starting from the top highest level in your house, start opening radiator valves. Everyone in turn, open them all, and you should hear air rush in to the actual rad, and probably the hose will start running again a little bit as that water drops down and goes. Once that's all gone, head downstairs and do the same thing for the ground floor. When that's emptied out, you know then that you've done the job. You can work on whatever you want. A lot of people want it emptied right out, mainly because they want to put inhibitor in or whatever. So it's the main tip for combi is very simple. That's probably the main tip. Now when you're refilling for the combi one, obviously turn all the bleed valves back off upstairs and downstairs. Shut the drain valve off that you've had the hose pipe attached to, and then start to pressurize the combi boiler. Okay, give it up to 1.5, maybe even 2 bars to begin with. Now you'll let the water go in and then it will kind of stop. Now what you're going to do then is start opening the bleed valves on all the ground floor radiators first. Now as you open them, you may start to get a puff of pressure at first and then find it dies away, and that's because the pressure in the combi has gone down because you've let the air out and let the water in. Now what it means is you go back to the combi and you re-pressurize it again, take it up to 1.5, 2 bar again, and that's what you've got to do on every rad. As you go around the radiators, every time you open them up, depending how big they are, you will find that air comes out to begin with and gradually it peters away as the pressure drops from the boiler. So once again you go back to the boiler and re-pressurize. All the downstairs ones, then go upstairs and do all the upstairs ones. Same thing will happen as you bleed them, the pressure will drop. So back to the combi. I know it's laborious, you know, but that's combi systems for you. But at least you don't have any usual problems that F&E systems get, which I'll explain in a minute. And once that's done, light the boiler up and just check everything is tickety-boo. You may have a little bit of air here and there later on the following day. Just check the temperature of your rads, see if they're all hot at the top. If not, then maybe just a fraction of air to do. If that's the case, do make sure you never bleed a radiator while the combi boiler is on. Always make sure the boiler is off, then open the valve, and then you can get any air out remaining. Okay. Set the pressure between 1.2 and 1.5 bar, finished. And that's it for a combi. So we move on to F&E now. So F&E systems are one of the other really common systems in this country. So when you want to drain that, what do? Well, you can't just turn the boiler off and run it. I'm afraid you've got to actually shut the water off to the system. Now you've got a couple of options on this. You can shut the main water tap off under the sink, but then obviously you've got no water in the house on the mains. Or you can go up into the loft and find the little header tank, the little storage tank. What I usually do is I put a bit of wood across the top of the tank and a piece of string and tie the ball valve up so that no water can go into the tank. That way you've still got your water in your house, you haven't turned any water off. Once you've done that, same thing again as I've said for combis, down below find the drain valve. It will be at the lowest point in your system somewhere. Attach the hose, run it outside, open it up and start to drain. Same thing as with a combi again, open the top radiator bleed valves as it gets slower and let the air in, and the same thing downstairs. When it gets really low, open those up. It's as if you want to drain absolutely everything, and let the air in again and it will all run out the hose outside. Another aid as well, if you've got an F&E, is there is a motorised valve. You can actually set them into manual mode by pulling the spring back and locking it in. Three-way valve, you only got the one. If you've got two-way valves, they've both got little spring levers on, you can lock them in, and that will also help aid absolutely everything emptying because it's open manually. So that's another little tip, but don't forget when it's all filled up, you've got to re-put those back into auto mode. It's not necessary to do those, but it does help, for me anyway. So once you've done that, same thing, you do whatever the job is you want to do, adding an inhibitor or fixing something or other, moving a radiator, whatever it happens to be, do the job, then you go back. Make sure all those bleed valves are off again, radiators at the bottom of the stairs and upstairs, make sure everything's shut down that way, shut your drain valve back off, pull your hose off, then go up in the loft and untie the little ball cock. So that's if you've done it that way. If you just turn the mains off, no problem, just turn it back on under the sink. Anyway, we'll assume you've been in the loft, just untie the ball valve and it should start to fill, make sure it's running in okay. That's it, you can leave it. Now this will take a lot longer to fill than a combi in a way because it kind of has to keep running in slowly. So you start downstairs, give it a little while running, I'd give it 5 minutes at least running in, and then go downstairs and start bleeding the rads downstairs. Now the good thing is, unlike a combi, you can actually just keep bleeding them. You haven't got to pre-pressurise nothing. So you can go from rad to rad, bleed them all, and then give it another little bit of a while, go upstairs and bleed all the ones up in the top room. Obviously in a bungalow, no problem, all at one level. So, but that's it, bleed. That should be it. If you did put any of those motorised valves in manual, make sure to put them back into auto, and basically that is. See, if you've got any air stalks by the side of the cylinder, like little air valves there, you can open those up and get any air out of those as well. So check where your water cylinder is, there may be a little air stalk up on the side of it, and say open that up and get it out. Other than that, that's it. And usually I'm afraid that it's usually a F&E system that gets problems when things get going afterwards. It's just a common fault with them that you still get air stuck sometimes in joints and bits, sometimes in the pump. So sometimes it's best to bleed the pump as well, perhaps undo the front of that and just make sure there's no air in there, and then screw it back in again, because air with the F&E is the most common problem. So I'm not going to go right into air and getting it all out because it can be a complicated situation depending on what type of F&E system you've got in the way it's been plumbed. So I'm not going to go in. I've got lots of videos on clearing air in those type of systems, so do check my channel for that. Okay, this video is just about draining out and refilling the system again.